Welcome to 412 Sports Talk, the number one podcast for Pittsburgh sports. Steelers, we talk it. Penguins, we talk it. Pirates, yeah, we talk it. With the biggest guests.
Bob Pompiani, Pittsburgh legend. Mayor Bill Peduto, the mayor of the city of Pittsburgh, is on with us. Doran Dickerson, West Allegheny legend.
Trey Essex, welcome.
Available on iTunes and Spotify. Hosted by Mad Chad Nolan.
It over too much. Well, now he's not turning it over at all.
And Eddie Provident.
We've got the best team in football.
And now, 412 Sports Talk.
All right, well, welcome back to the 412 Sports Talk podcast, brought to you by MCM Studios. I forgot that last week, and thankfully YouTube had my back and made Mike hit the default thumbnail because I forgot to put a thumbnail in. But yes, the 412 Sports Talk podcast brought to you by MCM Studios. I am your host, Eddie Provident. With me to my left is Mad Chad Nolan, and with us for the third time, the first three-peat guest in 412 Sports Talk, Derrick Bell, the knower of all things Pittsburgh Steelers draft and offseason topics. So, Derrick, thanks for joining us, buddy.
I appreciate you guys having me on again, man. It's been a little bit, but happy to be back.
Yeah, I think it was like before Christmas the last time we had you on. We've been a little hockey centric lately, but I wanted to do the draft thing with you before, and then now like five things happened this week where we have a lot to talk about, and we definitely want to get your thoughts on that. So.
Yeah, so I think we'll just hop. Do you guys want to just hop right into?
Yeah.
For this is the first. We're gonna do a live mock draft. The three of us are gonna play GM, and we're just gonna do a live mock draft. We'll put it up on the screen for those of you watching. If you're not watching and you're listening, just we'll call out the picks, and we'll make sure that there's a way to follow.
Before we start, so I wanted to ask Derrick. So just while we're recording this, we know that as of right now, I'm on Spot Track. The Steelers, as of right now, have a little over 10 mil in cap space available. Do we have any suspicion that they're gonna sign anybody like a key free agent in the next couple of days? Like, where are we at on like what they are going to do? Like, there has to be a reason why they did the Ebron restructure and the Juju voidable term the way they did, and then they got rid of Nelson, creating another need. So, I mean, obviously they're going to sign somebody. Like, do we have any idea what or who?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows. Nick and I have been talking a lot about that too. We don't really know what the game plan is. I think they've gotta find like one starter. I think I was looking earlier, like on my own math. After the Ebron thing becomes official, I think it's like 12.7 million. But I mean, you gotta have room to like pay your draft class, and of course they're probably doing some of that stuff. And then they've got the offseason workout bonus, which is like a little under $1 million, I believe. So I mean, I think they've got enough money there to do those things, and then still get like your depth signings. Like they just signed Cassius Marsh, like, which hopefully he doesn't make the team because he's not very good. But but they've got enough to do some like depth signings. The minimum deals like Marsh are not really going to move your cap number because the rule of 51, you're only going to move the cap space like $200K. But I think they've got enough money to do like an Ebron-like signing from last year, like a 2-year, $12 million guy where you can lower the cap hit in the first year to like 3. Like they've definitely got enough money to get like a starter. I think they need to do that especially without Nelson, to kind of fill one of those needs to maybe where you don't need to take a guy at that position in the draft at all. I mean, they got 8 picks in the draft, but they have more than 8 needs. So
let me throw some names at you of like, you can just say as much as pass or I'd be okay with that. So Richard Sherman.
I mean, Sherman's still playing at a high level. He just not, in my opinion, he's just not really a scheme fit. He's a cover 3 corner, and they're trying to get more like man centric.
How about Quentin Dunbar?
I thought about him too. a guy that I brought up yesterday, or a couple names, if they want to go for like a slot player that's kind of cheap, is Mackenzie Alexander. He played
Okay.
for Cincinnati. He actually had an
Yeah.
interception against us last year, but I think he'd be pretty cheap, maybe like $3 million a year or something like that. But I mean, Cincinnati's has signed like 47 defensive backs in the past couple of days, so I don't think they're going to be bringing him back. But he's just a slot guy, but I think he'd be a nice player. Kind of the outside corner market is like veteran heavy, and they've kind of avoided going with like older guys like, Malcolm Butler, Richard Sherman, Casey Hayward. All those guys are over 30, and like they've always avoided doing that, especially on defense.
Yeah, but my whole thing at this point, I don't like pickers can't be choosers, or beggars can't be choosers.
Right. I mean, when you release a good corner like that, Nelson, and like create a void like that, you might not have a choice. I kind of think that, it might come down. It might be one of those things where, like, even if they don't do like a signing, an Ebron like signing at that position, I'd like to see them like take a flyer on somebody that has like a little bit of upside to maybe come in and compete. Like, I think if you create kind of a competition with like James Pierre, say a veteran free agent that you're taking a flyer on, and then a draft pick, like I think that could be good enough with Sutton and Hayden already there.
Do you think is there any chance that they go in the trade market and try to find somebody for something for, maybe a couple of draft picks or,
Yeah, I do. The only thing is, I think they've got to be careful about. They're going to have to be really specific about what they want, I guess, because you're going to be looking for, with the cap space that they're at right now, the person you're acquiring is going to have a low cap hit for this year. So you're looking for probably someone on a rookie deal, maybe somebody like a better Justin Lane, who's like in like year 3, but maybe has like one more year of control at a low cap hit, to where, you might be able to give up like a 5th round pick in next year's draft or something like that. You always got to look for like, so for example, Cincinnati, I mean, they've signed a bunch of DBs, so they're going to have to let some of maybe a guy of theirs go, or they can't retain somebody. Someone brought this up to me on Twitter yesterday, was a guy like Julian Love from Notre Dame.
Yeah, oh, that's my guy.
Yeah. The Giants, I mean, they've been really active in free agency, and they signed James Bradbury last year to a big contract, but he was really good. And then they went out, what was it, 2 days ago, and signed Adoree Jackson to that big deal. So maybe maybe a guy like that would become available. But I think if it's a trade thing, they're going to have to be really careful about what they're looking for. A guy I suggested yesterday, kind of as like a flyer guy that would be like really cheap, was Garyon Conley from Ohio State. He got drafted first round by Oakland. Steelers like pedigree, really athletic. He's kind of that body type that they've often looked for, but they've never really succeeded in drafting or developing. But, like 6 foot, athletic. He was hurt all last year, so I don't know like if he's healthy, and that's my biggest concern. But he'd be really cheap. And when he got traded to Houston the year before, he had like an 8-game stretch where he broke up like double-digit passes. It was a little uneven, but like you could see like the talent was there. He also had a really good game against us, which is always kind of something that's weird for the Steelers. Anytime someone plays well against us, they don't forget that. If you remember, like the Moncrief signing last year, Tomlin specifically mentioned that when they played him in Indianapolis, like the year or two before, he was fantastic. And his rookie year, he caught a fade touchdown against us in 2014 too. So that kind of stuff sometimes sticks in coaches' heads. So like, I doubt they look at him, but I mean, it's like one of those off the wall ideas maybe.
And then before we begin the draft, I gotta, because I don't think I talked to you about this or so. So listen, I'm a fan of Juju. I'm glad he's back, but is there a chance that obviously there's a chance, but do you think they will end up, especially depending on how the rest of the draft and free agency goes, spending that money on bringing him back versus, trying to keep Tyson Alu and Mike Hilton?
I mean, I'll be honest, man. I don't really know that those moves are as related as people want to make them seem. I mean, it's always going to be related because of the money, you have to decide who you want to keep. But Juju 1 year for $8 million is a bargain. I mean,
I'm not disputing that.
I mean that's really what it comes down to me. And it's not that I know I'm probably a little bit lower on like maybe a guy like Mike Hilton than most people are because I'm a big Cam Sutton guy. But I just think like when you're talking about an offense that was really bad and losing your most reliable receiver, getting a guy like that to come back for like half of what his market value was. I mean, we're having discussions like before free agency that Juju's gonna possibly
14, 15 million. Yeah.
Million. Yeah, I mean, you're getting him for pennies on the dollar. And you also got to think like, so for example, when he leaves next year, like say if he, has a good year and they can't retain him, or if they go into this rebuild where they just don't keep him, I mean, you're still going to get a high comp pick for him. I was surprised by Alu, other than the Nelson thing that's kind of materialized recently. Alu was really the only guy I was surprised that they lost. I mean, it was kind of weird too because he was pretty cheap. I mean, maybe a little more than we expected he'd get, but I saw that, he wanted to go play, I guess, close to family and friends in Jacksonville where he's kind of started his career, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, I love the deal. I think it's probably that and the Sutton deals. I think those are both really good values for the type of players that they are. So I definitely think those are like the bright spots kind of in a weird off season where they've been a little cap strapped and otherwise made some, I guess, odd moves.
Well, why don't we let's hop into this mock draft?
Yes, let's do it.
Pick 24 with the Steelers. Let's go through real quick and see who was taken off of the board. The ETN is gone. Safety Morig is gone.
Well, if ETN's gone, I'm guessing that Harris is gone too.
Let's see here. So let's just scroll down to the first pick of the draft. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Jamar Chase, wide receiver from LSU, Penei Sewell, Rashad Slater, Trey Lance gone 6 to the Eagles. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
Jalen Waddle, wide receiver from Bama, Justin Fields to Carolina, Micah Parsons to the Broncos, Surtain to the Cowboys, Kyle Pitts falls all the way to 11 to the Giants. Mac Jones.
Which didn't they just sign Kyle Rudolph? I don't think they would draft another tight end. Jesus.
We got J.C. Horn.
Mm.
I'm not going to pronounce that. If one of you guys want to go at that. Devontae Smith, Elijah Vera Tucker, Christian Darrisaw.
There's Harris.
I was really hoping he'd fall to the Steelers.
Yeah.
Najee Harris to the Dolphins at 18.
All right.
And we got a linebacker.
My boy from Notre Dame, yeah.
Yep. We've got another receiver at 20, an offensive tackle, Tevin Jenkins, another one I was hoping to see go to the Steelers. Then we've got Trayvon Morig as a safety, and then Travis Etienne, a running back. So now we've got the Steelers on the board, basically an entire roster of team needs. Where are we going with this, fellas? Let's have this conversation. Right now on the board, we've got an edge rusher from Michigan available in Kwity Paye. We've got Jalen Phillips, another edge rusher. We've got a couple of cornerbacks.
Caleb Farley's probably going to be someone that I'm guessing we would want to look at.
Javonte Williams at running back, if we're going to go that way.
Would do that.
There's my boy Sam Cosmi. That's who I think my vote is going to be Cosmi.
Well, let's do this. What is our biggest need right now as this team stands?
Offensive line, in my opinion.
Derek?
Agreed.
Agree. Okay. Tackle though, or interior lineman, or a center?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
I think if Miners is available later in the draft, I think that's a good pick, and I think you can get a free agent center to fill in for a year.
And go to position and click on tackle.
Yeah, let's take
the tackles. Right there, right below you. There you go.
Yeah, we'll go position. And we'll go tackle.
Okay.
So we've got Cosmi is the guy that I'm looking at personally.
I've seen him go higher than lower than 24 in some of these.
What's your thoughts on him, Derek?
I think Cosmi's a really good player. I think both him and Jalen Mayfield high upside offensive tackles. Mayfield's played a couple different positions. He actually talked to the Steelers today too. Was the word on that? He said that he could play all 5 spots. I mean, I'd like to keep him at tackle though. Cosme's another interesting guy. I think I want to say that I kind of prefer maybe Mayfield a little more than like others though.
Especially if he's that
versatile.
versatile. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's a really good player in both assets. I think he's got a mean streak about him too. Like I just like I like his overall game. And the thing that I noticed about Mayfield's tape was he didn't play a ton last year with the COVID stuff, but every year that he played at Michigan, you could see like his growth from year to year. And I think that's big for like prospects, like being able to see them get better and trending upward consistently like that is like really it's encouraging, especially for like an offensive lineman. So I'm a fan of both those guys, and as you guys have probably seen me tweet, but like I think Ben's gonna get killed if Chooks and Banner are the tackles next year. I don't think he's gonna make it to November.
I'm a fan of Banner. I'm not a huge fan of Chooks. I think we at least need another tackle. So I think tackle's the way to go in the first round if this is the way it plays out. I'm going to say Sam Cosmi because I like the big 6'7" guy. I like the reach. I know that gives him some potential leverage problems, but I like a big, tall tackle, in my opinion.
Derek, you like Mayfield better?
I'm good with Cosmi. I want to present just one more like other scenario though.
All right.
If the board is like this, and it is a gamble, and I do, like we all said, I really do believe that tackle's the biggest need for them next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I've been the one complaining about them never taking an offensive player in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But Caleb Farley.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Pro Football Focus has Farley as like a top 15 prospect.
I think Farley's tape he didn't play last year because he opted out.
Right.
Farley's tape 2 years ago tells you that he's got like one of the highest ceilings in this class.
6'2" for a corner too. That's hard to come by.
Like everyone's been seeing the numbers that Horn ran today, and like he was super explosive, and Surtain had a really good day yesterday. Those guys are going to get picked earlier because they don't come with the same injury concerns. Like Farley's had 2 season-ending injuries, and then he's not going to work out at his pro day, which is going to hurt his stock because he had a back injury.
And my God, how bad would that be for this team that you need the Steelers? And it's not just the Steelers anymore. The draft has changed so much. When you draft in the first round, even these late picks, you're counting on them to unless you draft a project quarterback, like you're counting on these guys to contribute right away. Like you just are. And my God, what a nightmare that'd be. Like, okay, we're going to take a corner, which we didn't even originally need. And then this dude comes in training camp for preseason. He gets injured and he's out for the year, which could happen to anybody, but especially somebody that has 2 season-ending injuries on their thing, they're probably more likely to have that happen.
But like you said, though, like the Steelers have long coveted that like long corner that can press and kind of move really well. I mean, we saw him take Artie, Justin Lane's kind of that same mold. Even James Pierre's kind of that same like longer corner. But Farley, in my opinion, is like I think he's got just as good tape, probably better from 2 years ago than Surtain or Horns from last year.
So
all right, well, let's settle this there then.
I guess here's my question.
Sure.
Is it easier, in your guys' opinion, to plug and play an offensive lineman or a corner?
Offensive line.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think it's for this year more than it's for anything.
Yeah.
Especially, I've even seen some of the high, like when you see the corners that go in the previous years in the top 10, even those guys tend to struggle like big time, you know.
Well, the problem with one of the issues that corners have like coming from college and going to the pros is, for instance, like J.C. Horn. His tape's really good from last year, but he's a little grabby at the top of the routes. NFL receivers, if you're going to try to put your hands on them at the top of the routes, it's not going to work. You're going to either
Yeah.
get flagged all the time, or you're going to be getting spun around just because guys are just too good. They're too shifty.
And I'm gonna present one more thing before we decide this, and it's probably gonna lean me towards taking one of the tackles. Is, my God, the Steelers do not have a good track record of drafting corners.
But I'm the only thing with Farley that like would make me at least consider it is he's relatively new to the position, which kind of screams like developmental prospect. But I really think from day one, if he's healthy, he's like an alpha corner that you can put on an island. And I'm not saying he'll be that from day one, but I really think like early in his career, he's going to be a shutdown guy if he's healthy.
And last thing for me, I will say that we're probably going to be able to find offensive linemen later in this draft that still might have a chance to compete for playing time or a starting role as opposed to corner, especially given the Steelers' track record.
It's a great offensive line class. It's a great tackle class.
And the Steelers have done that before. They've drafted guys. There's guys in this offensive line right now that were late picks that were like, yep, these guys might be a starter, coming out of camp because, to me, that's just such an easier position to transition to, like you said, versus corner. You're dealing with these all-pro, all-world receivers. Then you got the schemes in coverage in the NFL, especially with the Steelers. They play, their style is different. So if we're going to draft a corner with one of these three picks, if we're going to agree that we're going to do that, I would rather take a guy like Farley, who like I said a couple weeks ago, I've seen this guy being a top 15 pick, and we're getting him at 24.
You just don't see guys that move the way that he moves at 6'2". He's got ball skills. He's got a smooth pedal. He's got good feet, good hips. I mean, you just don't see like more often than not, what you're going to get is like you get your small guys who are really good movers, but they don't have the size, or your bigger corners. They're not as smooth they're not as smooth in and out of their breaks, but they're able to be physical. Farley's physical profile is that of a smaller corner, but he's 6'2".
And do you think that if he wouldn't have had the injury concerns, he would probably be going way, way earlier, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be kind of a crapshoot on what you want. I think if he wasn't hurt, I think it would be between him and Horn on who would be the first corner off the board.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like there's like a stigma around Surtain that like maybe he's not as like he doesn't play like the athlete he tested as a couple of days ago.
And he got me convinced. I'm all for Farley.
All right, I'm sticking with Cosme. We got to vote for Farley from Chad. Derrick, you're the tiebreaker here, man.
Let's go Cosme.
Cosme.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Sam Cosme.
I got betrayed live on the podcast, man. That was crazy. He's the one that talked me into it.
I talked Chad into
it. All right, so
like I said, my biggest concern, man, is if those two guys are blocking for being on the edges next year, I really don't think he's going to make it to November. Like 25-year-old Ben with this current offensive line, yeah, whatever, he can do it. But 39.
I already know who I'm going to pick right here. I already know who I'm going to pick.
All right, so we got obviously
Asante Samuel Jr.
We took Cosme. So then we've got Terrence Marshall. I'm just going to run through these quick. Marshall, Pay, Jalen Phillips, Caleb Farley goes to the Saints. Nick Bolton.
Nah, Nick Bolton. You were just talking about him yesterday, weren't you?
Greg Rousseau, Zaven Collins, Javonte Williams, Christian Barmore, Greg Newsome II, Jason Owe, Creed Humphrey, Eric Stokes, Kadarius Toney, Jalen Mayfield, Aaron Robinson. Yeah, it fell way late. Aaron Robinson, Liam Eichenberg, Elijah Moore, Landon Dickerson, Ronnie Perkins, Joseph Asai, Baron Browning, Dylan Wood. Just going to scroll all the way up. So here we go.
There's Leatherwood. That would have been another good pick, too.
Leatherwood, yeah. So we've got another couple wide receivers in Rondell Moore and Amari Rogers. And now at pick 55, the Steelers are on the board. And we've got some people that fell. We've got some guys, according to at least this website, Draft Network. We've got an interior defensive lineman, which I don't really think the Steelers. I don't think we really need. Well, I mean,
Not
we
unless
lost.
you can play nose tackle.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on this list of people here? A list of guys here, Derek.
Well, no, go ahead.
Man, taking a tight end is really tempting, but I
Yeah,
gotta
and Fearmouth is that dude. I watched his highlights, and like Penn State would just dump it out to him in the flat. He runs people over and gallops over people. He can play football, man. He's a football player.
Yeah, the whole baby Gronk thing might be a little overdone, but
I did see him run some people over.
he's definitely a really good prospect. I think they would have to they would have to think long and hard about him at this point.
Hey, Eddie, do me a favor. Can you click on the tight end list real quick? I want to see if my boy's still available later on. Okay, so Tommy Tremble's still on the board. So I'm thinking that we can maybe make a play for Tremble in the third round.
I'm good with that. I'm good with waiting. So let's go back to all.
Go to running back. Michael Carter. Are we at the point now where we're just waiting for running back?
I think I wouldn't be comfortable taking any of these running backs that are left this
in the
high.
second round.
Yeah, I think
Derek?
these are third, fourth round guys in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree too. I think Chad's on the right track there. I'm not going to betray him this time.
What with Asante Samuel?
Yeah, I'm liking Asante Samuel here.
If he's anything like his dad, we're getting interceptions galore.
Little small for my liking, but I think he can fit nicely, especially with Cam Sutton's going to be on. He's probably going to be on the other.
Doesn't Tomlin have a thing for Florida State prospects too? For some reason, isn't that a thing? Maybe I made that up.
Well, they sent the house to the pro day this week. I think Samuel's a really good corner, man. He's got freaking lightning fast feet. I love his footwork. And I've been telling, I've seen a lot of people say that, like, we could plug and play him in the slot. Like, and I definitely think that they can do that because he's feisty, man. He plays.
And they're going to love that too because they want their corners to be able to come up and tackle and everything. So
yeah, he's feisty. He's got that dog in him that you really look for. But I would just caution against people pigeonholing him into a slot role for his entire career. I really think that, like, with his competitive toughness and, his footwork, I think he can survive outside even despite some size limitations. I mean, some of the better – it's hard because, there's not a ton of guys that are kind of –
I brought that up more for a one-year thing because we still have Hayden.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it for this year where we're going to plug him in this year. I do think that he has the skill set to be an outside guy eventually, but bringing him in slowly as a slot guy and as a nickel, I like that better than just throwing him to the Wolves as a outside guy in his rookie year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like it because with Samuel, I think he can kind of play both inside and out. Sutton can do the same. So you've kind of got some backup plans if people get injured. So
yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, cool.
All right, Asante Samuel Jr. to the Steelers at pick 55.
Now we got 2/3 coming up. And I like how we're not even looking at the quarterback list. We're not doing that. God damn it. Tommy Tremble to the Eagles. Nah, cancel it.
All right, so we've got now I know we don't need a receiver, but this one really intrigues me.
If they wouldn't have signed Juju back, that would have probably been a no-brainer.
Yeah. So
I think here you got to go Michael Carter at running back, right? Because I think Nick was high on him. He said that he has explosive speed.
I like both Carter and Gainwell. I think for the Steelers,
I think Gainwell's going to fit better.
They've already shown interest in Gainwell.
Go to running back, Ed. Gainwell from Memphis. I haven't seen his tape at all.
I'll tell you what, if I don't know that he's going to be there at our next pick, but I actually really like Trey Sermon too. Like, I'm a big Trey Sermon fan, maybe bigger than I should be, but I would be completely comfortable taking Gainwell here too.
Are you high on Trey Sermon at past third round, Derek?
Yeah, I think this is about the earliest I think I'd be comfortable taking him, but
Well, I mean, according to this, we're going to be able to get him maybe with our next pick, not this pick.
yeah, the thing with Gainwell that's kind of interesting is like he didn't play last year either. So, Colbert's been on record for saying that like, they would definitely have to take that you know, into account because like when you're looking at tape or, breaking down prospects, Gainwell didn't play last year where Trey Sermon kind of the end of last year kind of turned up and he really like had a couple phenomenal games for Ohio State down the stretch to where they were really leaning on him.
We need we need an inside linebacker too, though, right?
Yeah, I just don't see them coming away out of day 2 without a running back. I don't think that's their.
And you're not high on Carter.
I like Carter as well. I thought Michael Carter was the best back at the Senior Bowl.
I vote for Carter because I watched that whenever we did the podcast with Nick, I watched his highlight tape and it was impressive to say the least.
Yeah, I'm a big Michael Carter guy. I mean, the only thing that's kind of interesting about him is just the size. I just don't know. I don't know how they're going to look at that because I mean they have a type at running back just like they have a type at corner, and I don't know that that's the type of body type that would.
I know. I hate that when teams are stuck in like, and so many pro teams do this where like. 2021, we should be over the size thing. Like, how many guys need to come into the league and prove that doesn't always, some guys play bigger than they look, some guys play smaller than they are, some guys play faster than they run at the pro days. That's why I like watching the highlights and the tape. Is when I watched that Michael Carter tape, he didn't look 5'8" to me. I'll tell you that. I saw him breaking tackles and doing all kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and Carter's a big asset in the pass game, man. Like
and that's to me. If we're going to take a running back, he has to have our track record of being able to not only catch passes out of the backfield and turn them into something, but also can they pass protect? Because that was a major issue to me last year.
Yeah. Real quick, Derek, what's your thoughts on Josh Myers, guard or looking at a guard or a center?
I mean, he's another prospect that I like. I think I prefer Miners to him at this point. But yeah, I mean, Josh Myers is a good prospect. I think that he is a different type of prospect than maybe Miners.
Is Miners still on the board though?
Which I think he might be gone. He's definitely gone.
Yeah.
Can Myers play center?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he played center at
they need a center.
Whitewater.
What tight ends are available? I know I saw Trumbull get taken. Hunter Long.
I'm not really comfortable with taking any of these guys high.
I think we missed our shot with that.
I'm thinking honestly, I think it's out of.
I'm for Carter, and I promise you, go watch his.
Carter. It's either Carter or Gainwell now, or hoping that Trey Sermon falls to the next pick, or what do we go? Another offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think too many people would complain if you walk away with 2 potential starting offensive linemen in the first 4 picks.
Yeah,
and I'm
probably for Gainwell.
I'm torn between.
I'm fine with Gainwell then. Yeah, let's take Gainwell.
Let's go Gainwell. Let's go Gainwell then. All right.
So and he's also a guy like Gainwell's also a dude. I think he's probably the second best pass receiving back in the draft, and he's a guy that has experience like split out in the slot, out wide. He's got a very advanced route tree for like a running back. And that's something that I think makes him pretty attractive for like a team, even in his rookie year, because he gives you that kind of element.
All right, so we had 2 fourths, not 2 thirds. So we're in a fourth round.
I think we got to look at inside linebacker here.
So just looking at, we'll go all first and see who's on the board. Interior defensive lineman Jalen Twyman's available.
I think that awful pro day, man, is gonna knock him down.
You think so?
Yeah. And like I said, unless they can potentially play nose tackle, I don't know about a defensive lineman, especially with them re-signing Chris Wormley.
True. I forgot about them re-signing Warner.
They're gonna have to sign a nose tackle if we don't come out of this draft with one. Like
So
they
let's
just don't
look
have
at
a nose tackle.
linebacker. Any of those linebackers stand out to you? Because none of them really at the early fourth. None of them
Thought
really.
I saw somebody high on that Fields kid from West Virginia, but I don't. I mean, 186. We're about 60 picks. Oof. Can any of these guys, are they good in coverage?
I don't think the value is there
Tight end?
right
Nope.
now for that position.
How about looking at edge? I think there's still some good edge prospects on there. I mean, they still need depth
I'll tell you
at
what,
that position.
Cameron Sample, I actually like from Tulane. I saw a little bit of tape on him, and I mean he's got some flash.
Do you scroll down a little bit on the edge list?
There's a lot of there's a lot. Rashad Weaver from Pittsburgh, Jonathan Cooper from Ohio State,
Shaka Tony.
It might be a little early, but Ellerson Smith is a guy that Nick and I talked about a little bit. But the Steelers met with him at his pro day. I think he's had a Zoom meeting maybe with them.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I love his size on the edge.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
Yeah, he's kind of like Highsmith in that, like, you know, he kind of needs to almost grow into his body and get a little bit stronger. But as like a sub package guy or a guy that's like a rotational piece, like early on in his career, which he would be, because I mean Highsmith's going to start.
So they're saying that he's not very good against the run, but he has upside as a pass rusher and sub packages, and that's really what they need.
Yeah, I mean, like, they don't necessarily need like an every down player next year. And I think, like I said, I think he's got some room with his frame to kind of grow into and get stronger. So
let me throw the wrench in this, because I actually with that size, I do like him.
Mm-hmm.
But we're at 128 right now. He's projected 147, and we've got another pick at 140, and there's a lot of edge rushers left.
So he's probably still going to be there. Yeah. How about we go back? I mean, are we still need a center, right?
Preferably.
Let's see who's there, Ed. Interior offensive lineman. I know this website's a little rough sometimes.
No, I clicked the wrong. I don't know much about David Moore, but I do know a little bit about Trey Hill and Tommy Kramer.
Yeah, Kramer can't play. He's a guard, though. He's not going to play center.
Yeah. Hill, to me, I know a lot of people have been talking about kind of him as like a fallback day 3 option. The only thing with him is like he's really good kind of in the phone booth or at the line of scrimmage, but he's not going to really give you I don't think a ton like down the field. I mean, like they used him as a puller, like Draft Network said, but I don't know if he's a guy that like has the kind of upside that like a Meinerz has.
Yeah. And they like their center to they do a lot of those run plays where the center pulls and does.
Like I said, he can do that. I just don't know if I don't know if he's the kind of guy that they would take this early. Scroll down like a little bit.
Chad, I read that as Ron Hainsey.
I mean, my thing is, so we have with this pick, we got inside linebacker. We didn't like anything from that. Center, edge, nose tackle. Have you seen anybody that could potentially compete for a nose tackle spot?
Marvin Wilson. I mean, they were at the Florida State Pro Day 2 years. Like this time last year, he was a top 20 guy.
Yeah, but he was a 5-star recruit.
That's an interesting.
He was a 5-star recruit coming out. I almost want to say he was the top recruit, or I think he was one of the top 5 recruits coming out of high school. And yeah, he's right. Last year, if you went back a year ago and did a mock draft, like the 21-21 mock draft, he would have been like a top 5 pick. Why did he fall so? Was it injuries?
His tape was bad this year.
Really?
It was bad.
But again, we're a 4th round, so not all these guys are going to have some tape that is going to be questionable.
Yeah, you're betting on like pedigree and upside at that point, as far as like can he get back to what he was 2
Go
years
back, click on his name again. I just want to see what they said about him.
I'll
High potential, inconsistent leverage. He'd be well served to clean up his frame to allow natural gifts to shine. But it is clear that he can take another step forward and develop into a balanced defender that is part of a defensive line. He has quickness, he has good hands and urgency. He has some issues anchoring and contact balance. I mean, again, everybody at this point is going to have negatives. I really like the upside.
I'm good with it. We need an inside.
And the Steelers defensive line's one of the positions that I'm comfortable with them as far as coaching guys up and stuff like that. And drafting him, I mean, they might be able to sign a nose tackle. So drafting him doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be depending on him to be the day one starter either.
But at that size too, what was he, 6'2", 6'3", 320?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to plug up the middle.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a true like 3-4 nose tackle, but I mean the Steelers are kind of moving away from that though. I mean they,
Tyson Alu wasn't that traditional nose tackle.
Either was Hargraves. So I mean, I think for me at this point, like with the way the board looks, it would probably be. I'd probably maybe lean a little more towards Hill just based off like positional value. What I think they need.
You wouldn't take any looks at Twyman?
Man, the pro day numbers for him and Paris Ford are gonna like. I don't think Paris Ford's gonna get drafted either.
That's sad.
It is sad, but like you gotta think like it's kind of like the same thing that's gonna hurt Farley. Farley sat out all year and then he's got a back injury.
Yep.
And then you look at Ford, he opted out to train for the draft, and then he ran a 4.9 240.
4.9. I was like, man, I ran that in high school.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just. But I mean, obviously, I think Ford will end up latching somewhere and like
Yeah, no, I still have faith.
Eventually, I think he might. He's gonna have a shot at the league. But
I honestly think if he's available late, the Steelers may take a flyer on him just because of the relationship Tomlin has with his family.
Yeah,
and I know that firsthand.
Well, but if he doesn't get drafted at all, then I think they'll definitely scoop him up as far as bringing him to camp and everything.
I think with him though, if he's available 6th round, I think the Steelers take him.
I'll tell you who I like a little bit more for the Steelers, like 6th, 7th round, depending on like what they're able to kind of fill depth wise on free agency, is Hamlin.
Okay, yeah.
I think
kid too, really good kid.
Yeah, and he reminds me a little bit of I think it was Jordan Reed, maybe from Draft Network, that he compared him a little bit to Jordan Fuller last year, and I was really big on the get Jordan Fuller 6th, 7th round to the Steelers, and Fuller actually went to the Rams, and he was a big part of their defense last year. I mean, he played sub-package football. Fuller just wasn't the sexy athlete that like people want in a free safety, but like to me, Hamlin's kind of like the same thing. He's not a great athlete, but I think he can, be a competent third safety for you. And I think there's value in that. And I've heard great things about his character too. Obviously, Tomlin and them are going to be familiar with him. So I think if he was there like 6th, 7th round, even, I think that they would at least try to give him a look.
So getting back to the 4th round, his first 4th round pick, are we all in agreement with Wilson?
No, he wants Hill.
You want Hill?
Yeah, if y'all are good with Wilson, we're good with that. We might be able to get Hill next round. So.
All right, yeah.
Well, let's take a look. Let's see where Hill. Kylan Hill, you talking about?
No. Trey Hill.
Trey Hill
from Georgia.
Oh no! If we're talking about Trey Hill, then I'd rather get a center. Let's do that here. Yeah.
I think Trey Hill's going to be available.
Yeah, we might be able to get him next round, even if we don't.
Well, so here's the thing: we've got 2 picks in the next 12. We were looking at Trey Hill. We were looking at the Florida State nose tackle
Marvin Wilson,
and then we were looking at the edge rusher. The 6'6" kid you told us about.
We can get him later too because there's so many edges available.
Ellerson Smith.
Trey Hill's the second-rated interior offensive lineman left on the board, so there is a chance that he might not be there.
I'll leave it to you, Derek. You're the expert, man.
Yeah. Let's go with Wilson because y'all were both in agreement on that.
All right, let's go Wilson. So there's our interior D lineman.
Yeah, I mean that board hardly even changed.
And it looks like Trey Hill is still there.
There he is. Yep. So
do we want to go Trey Hill or we want to go edge rusher?
I think we go Hill.
I go center.
I go Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think
there were some drafts that I was doing where I even wanted to come out of the first 4 picks having 2 offensive linemen, and so this makes
Yeah.
All right, so now we have to try to find some kind of inside linebacker. We just have to at this point.
There was a run on edge rushers there.
No, so. Yeah, there were so many left, but they just have to. They have no inside linebacker depth whatsoever. I almost wonder if they should, in real life, if they should trade up to get into that 5th round. I mean,
we should have done this slower where we could do trades.
Yeah. I want to bring up that possibility too. Like they're going to be projected to have 3 to 4 comp picks for next year, in addition to all their own picks. I mean, it's not out of the possibility that they could use a pick from next year to move up to get somebody that they really want this year.
I would sure hope so.
Kind of like they did.
I'm trying to see where your boy went.
Devin Bush. I don't think they'll move up in the first round.
The Titans took your boy Ellerson Smith, 166 in this.
Hate to see that.
So we can go. Let's just look at the whole board here.
Edge rushers.
A lot of receivers available, but I don't know that we can afford to take a receiver.
Not with
over
Juju coming.
If
Juju coming back, if Juju they wouldn't have signed Juju, that was going to be someone that they would have probably had to get in the top 3 rounds.
Let's look at linebackers here.
Linebacker, tight end, and edge are the 3 I think we're looking at here. Anybody that stands out there, Derek?
I haven't got the chance to watch Patty Fisher.
Wasn't he also like really high at one point? I think I had him in like the top 2 rounds last year.
I know there's a couple guys that I follow that have him as kind of like a day 3 guy that they kind of like.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it on my screen right now. Walter Football last year, WalterFootball.com, which is one of the top draft sites, they had him as projected in the 1st round. So holy hell, he's going from a 1st round to a 6th round guy.
I'm good with it.
Let me see. I just want to read what it says. Fisher is an over-here on football.
Hey, Chad, when you're reading, back up a little bit because the microphone's not picking you up there.
Expectations of a high-level starter felt optimistic. He's a blue-collar player. He sounds like Robert Spillane. That's who he sounds like. Big physical run stuffer, so he's not great in coverage. Isn't that the opposite of what they need, though? They need somebody that can cover and play in sub-packages.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in the draft, I don't know that you're gonna get
True.
You're gonna get though that type of guy like Tough Borland. He's the same way, like limited athlete. But I mean, I think if you're gonna take a guy, what are we in the 6th round?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking at can they fill a role? Like, can they play in certain packages, like early downs, late downs? Can they play special teams?
I like that Patty Fisher. I mean, that's a name that I think if, like I said, he was literally projected as a 1st round pick a year ago. So the ability is there. Obviously scouts are high on him. It's just that he's not someone that's going to be an every down player. But like Derek said, you don't need an every down player right now. You're looking for guys that if Robert Spillane is injured, can Patty Fisher come in and play the same way? Probably. He could probably do what Robert Spillane did. If anything, he probably has a higher pedigree than Spillane.
Is this the top of the list?
This is just linebackers, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Here's the full list.
I was thinking maybe Tony Fields was still here at this point.
What we need? Tight end. We need edge, inside linebacker.
Yeah, let's take a look at the tight ends. Damn. A guy was kind of hoping it's a little late for him, but Trey McKitty.
Okay.
I really like.
Luke Farrell's the only guy that I've even seen play live, honestly, and that's at Ohio State. And he's a guy that would probably be like a third tight end at best. Like,
yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with him.
We're
I'm
looking
not
at Luke Farrell here.
Yeah.
But yeah, good blocker.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
they need a blocker.
Well, that's why I wanted Tommy Tremble in the third round if he was there, because again, Tremble's not somebody that's going to wow you, down the field, but that's not what they need. They need somebody that can come in on 3rd and 1 and try to get a hat on somebody.
Yeah.
That's just something that they haven't had in their arsenal. Any of these guys are going to be projects, but Farrell's the guy that, played for Ohio State. He's a reliable blocker. He's not going to be anything more than that, but I don't think they need anything more than that. And I sure like the idea of drafting a guy like him versus bringing back like Jesse James or some shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, like they like we kind of said to start it off, they've got so many needs to where, like, especially for depth purposes, I mean, you could go 5 different ways on day 3. I mean, you're still not going to get all unless they trade back and acquire a couple more picks, or they're a little more active in free agency, they're not going to be able to fill everything.
So this is something that the Steelers do a lot, especially later in the draft, and I'm gonna run this one. So right now the needs are definitely tight end and linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but both the tight end that we're looking at, Luke Farrell, and the linebacker that we're looking at, Patty Fisher, are at least 40, 50 picks. Actually, 50, 60 picks.
So you're going to say maybe just take the best athlete on the board?
Take the best player on the board and then see what happens after that.
Anybody that sticks out that you any names stick out?
Wyatt Hubert from Kansas State. And I don't know much about him, just he's the best edge rusher on the board, and we haven't picked an edge rusher yet. 6'3", 265.
Experience and coverage is limited, but he's a ball of energy.
He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's going to fit our system.
He's a fit. He's got at least from a size profile standpoint, the Steelers like their bigger edge. That's why I like the kid from Duke. I've seen people mocking him, and while I do like him as kind of like a sub-package rusher that could help, little lighter than like the Steelers like their edge rusher. So yeah, I definitely think Hubert's like a fit at this point in the draft.
Again, he's not going to do anything more than compete for, being the relief edge rusher when TJ Watt leaves the game.
And I say, like, for me, that's a dude that's projected at 175. You're getting him at 216. It's the 6th round. And
sometimes these rankings aren't exact size either.
For sure. But I mean, like, realistically, I think it's a solid pick in the 6th round, and then we should still be able to get one of a tight end or a linebacker in the 7th.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, at this point, there may be just an athlete on the board that, like, for whatever reason, it's listed there. Look, at some of these guys were projected to go 50 picks beforehand. There might be a guy there that they're like, you know what, it doesn't fit a big need right now, but we can't pass up this kind of athlete at the 216th pick. Because you might be able to get a third tight end after the draft, and when guys get cut and stuff like that. So is there any name on the best players available board there that you just sticks out to you? Or are we just picking just?
I think Hubert's a good pick right here, because I think it, like Eddie kind of said, I think it does give you the ability to kind of fill a need while also taking like one of the best players.
One of the best players left. Yeah, I'm all for that too. Let's do it.
All right. Why
almost
he was
thought
an edge
The
rusher.
receiver from Iowa is like an athletic freak, but like we kind
I've
of
seen his name. Yeah.
we don't really need a receiver.
Not unless you're cutting James Washington. Yeah.
I mean, don't really need that.
All right, pick 245. Let's go back to let's just take a look at all real quick.
A lot of corners and receivers,
Yeah,
which
and
we don't need.
we got those. So let's take a look at linebacker.
If Patty Fisher's still there,
And
they
he's
took
not.
him. Sons of bitches.
And then what was the other one we were
Oh
looking
well,
at?
Turf
Tight end.
Borland's still there, and we liked him though.
Luke Farrell. He's still
I think
he's still
you just go
available.
with that. I think you just go with that at this point.
Blocking tight end.
Yeah.
Derrick.
I don't know how about you, Phil, but if they can find anyone, whether they draft or sign somebody that's available that can block, I'm almost to the point where I'm just taking Ebron off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, there's Rumpf, who I was referring to earlier from Duke, but
okay.
The only reason that I would say maybe look at somebody else here, and I know we said we don't really need a receiver, but Tamorrion Terry is the guy from Florida State that they were at the pro day, and I really think that he's got upside at receiver. The quarterback play at Florida State recently has been shaky at best, but like he's a height weight speed prospect who can really get down the field. He's also
6'4". Woo.
He's also a very experienced gunner. So I think like that would be for me. Like if I was gonna draft a receiver, he would have to have some special teams value. And I think this late in the draft, I would be more inclined to maybe take him and try to pick up maybe Luke Farrell or a blocking tight end and like undrafted free agency.
Average 58 yards per reception.
But we would also on his touchdowns, but we would also be taking 3 Florida State guys in this mock. But I mean, they sent the house to the pro day. I'm pretty sure that like Tomlin, Colbert, and company were there. So
yeah.
But I'm good with Farrell or Terry.
Boy, a 6'4" wide receiver with some deep threat ability, and to be able to put him and Claypool on the field at the same time. This is where I do like that, Derrick, because you can have a situation where you put Eric Ebron, Chase Claypool, and Terry all on the field at the same time. And if it's a smaller defense, you're going to cause problems for that defense with 3 guys like with that size.
Another thing with
goal line packages are going to be nice with something like that.
Yeah, and like James Washington is a free agent after the year. He's not going to be brought back.
No. And Ben likes big receivers. We know that.
And like at this point in the draft, I mean, I think for me, it's like a 2-for-1 kind of scenario. At this point in the draft, you're looking for guys that can fill specific roles, whether that be offense, defense, special teams. He gives you special teams value, and he also gives you some upside with this physical profile as a receiver. So to me, I'm good with him or Farrell, really. I think they both make sense at this point.
Yep, let's do Terry.
I'm good with Terry.
We got 2 picks left, I think.
All right.
And now, really, at this point, actually, you know what? We're drafting again. Let's go see if Farrell's available.
All right. So Borland is still there. Was a linebacker we were looking at.
Yep.
Farrell. Now I say we don't mess around anymore.
Yeah.
We get our tight end.
Yeah.
He's still there. I think this is a bonus if we get him here.
Yeah.
And now again here we're done. We're done. Okay.
All right.
I thought we had one more.
So let's do a little recap here.
Oh, we got these ads.
Yeah. Let me.
You turn the ad blocker on.
Yeah, I know, right? Where do I just go to see my
Derrick, while he's doing this, so let me ask you a question, because I haven't talked to you about this either. So we had this predict things for us where ETN and Harris were off the board. Are you like me, where if Harris is there, you take him?
would prefer to. I wouldn't take a first round running back.
Not even Najee Harris.
I'm very team Najee Harris. He's my running back one, but I just don't. The problem with running back in the first round is like your first round players really need to be like the pillars of your team.
See, I think he can be that. Especially, hear me out real quick, because I pose as Nick. Hear my logic in this. You got 40-year-old Big Ben, and you and I are both the captains of the Ben Roethlisberger fan club. Right. But then, so you got 40-year-old Ben, and the team couldn't run the ball to save their lives last year. And then next year, we're probably saying that Ben's not here, or he's still old as hell, or they're going to have an inexperienced quarterback. Najee Harris, to me, is a guy that you can make the pillar of the offense around, because he's a 3-down back, and those are just so hard to come by. He's somebody that you can have on the field and truly say, if we can't get anything going, he can break tackles, he can pass block, he can catch the ball. To me, those guys are just so hard to come by nowadays that if he's there, you're like, okay, this is going to take much needed pressure off of our quarterback, who literally had to try to put the team on his back, and he can't do that anymore. Does that logic at least make sense?
No, it does. And I definitely do agree that they need to strengthen the run game. It's tough for me to agree to be really excited about taking a guy that you don't plan on retaining after his rookie deal's up. Because you got to think like you're probably getting like his 5th-year option. I mean, at that point, Najee's going to be, 27, 28, because he's an older prospect too.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it's about Harris that I think people in Pittsburgh would fall in love with Najee Harris.
Yeah,
he would be literally like a cult hero by the end of his rookie year, because he not only is he a fantastic running back he's a bigger back who's got power, he's got, good feet, but the way that he catches the football, like he high points the ball better than any of the Steelers receivers not named Juju did last year. Like
that's what I'm saying. The way their offense was,
I mean, they were throwing him out there on fades and wheel routes, and he was like mossing linebackers. And
I'm not a big like draft running backs or sign running backs, but there are exceptions to every rule, and I think Harris has has the potential to be like a top 5 back in the league. Like I think he's that talented. I
think with the Harris argument is like, it's just the positional thing for me. But I mean,
totally understand. Totally get it.
The good news is like they've taken some guys in the draft, and every team has, that just don't work out. I just don't see a scenario where Harris isn't a good back.
Injury, that's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, I think you're going to look at the stats in the next couple of years, and he's like yards from scrimmage. He's a name that you're probably going to see near the top of the list.
What is their game plan at running back? Is it just Benny Snell, McFarland?
It's Najee Harris. Dude, look, there's been running backs, especially in the last couple of days, like Mike Davis just signed for like 2 years for like $5 million.
That Nick came on our show and said that that's the guy that they should look at.
They're not even looking at cheap backs. Let me tell you something too that I noticed a couple of days ago, and who knows, because you can't really look at contracts in a vacuum, because guys might want to play certain places. The Aaron Jones deal that he signed in Green Bay. Now you look at it on paper and it's like 4 for $48, and it's like there's no way I'd pay a running back that. But the deal is actually a 2-year, 20-year. It's a 2-year, $20 million deal. His cap hits for the first year and second year are like $5 million and $9 million, and you can cut him after that for like $5 million or something. Steelers not being interested in that tells me that they're all like, in the other backs tells me they're all in on drafting a running back early.
So the name I brought up to Nick when he was on the show that he liked was Leonard Fournette.
Mm-hmm.
1-year deal with him, you could probably get him for close to $4 or $5 million as a cap hit. Is that something that they're interested? I mean, like obviously we don't know what they're interested in, but like I mean that's something that I think he's a guy that would fit our system. He could probably take the bulk of the carries, and if you put him in there with a Anthony McFarland and maybe a Benny Snell. Now, I would trust him a little more than I would trust James Conner in that 1A role.
Yeah, I mean, I think their talent level is kind of similar. I mean, they're different backs, but maybe Fournette is more suited for that, like just from a durability standpoint, is more suited for that lead back role. I wouldn't have a problem if they brought him in. They haven't been linked to any free agent running backs, and the Steelers are usually pretty discreet about who they want anyway in free agency, but they're really transparent about who they like in the draft, and them sending everybody to the Alabama Pro Day, everybody to the Clemson Pro Day.
But Harris didn't even do anything at the Pro Day, though, did he?
Correct. They met with him at the Senior Bowl, though.
Okay.
Yeah, you can still interview him and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, and obviously there's other great prospects there. I mean, Clemson and Alabama, everyone sends a lot of people there.
Yeah, we ended up drafting guys from Florida State, not Alabama.
But if you look at previous years and stuff, wherever Tomlin and Colbert are at for pro days, you need to pay attention, because those schools are where they want their guys early in the draft.
You guys might not agree with it, but I think if either Etienne or Harris are there, they're going to take one of those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still think that they need to go offensive line, but I agree with you, Chad, that they're going to do that if it's there.
And like Derek said, and like we just went through, I wouldn't panic if they don't come out of the first even 2 rounds without an offensive lineman, because the 2 of those next 3 picks, when they go 3rd round, 4th round, you could easily go tackle center right in those 2 picks. And I also think that it's easier to depend on a high level running back draft prospect versus a 4th, 5th, 6th rounder. A lot of times that's crapshoot. The one thing I will say that Nick, before we wrap this up, that Nick brought up on our show a few weeks ago was, he's still interested to see what McFarland's going to do. He said he still has high hopes for him, especially now that Canada is going to be controlling this offense. So that's another. I'm low on Benny Snell. I think Benny Snell is a guy that I would. If they brought in 2 backs, I would be like, you know what? If they cut Benny Snell, I'm okay with that.
I used to be high on him after this last season. I don't see it anymore. I really was disappointed by him.
McFarland, I'd like to see them. Hopefully now that he has the NFL speed. I don't know what you think, Derek, but I'd like to see them maybe. I'm kind of optimistic about seeing him play behind a better offensive line and getting involved in the game a little bit more with Matt Canada's offense.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to be less creative on offense.
So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think the problem with McFarland last year wasn't necessarily that, like, you were just like, this guy can't play at this level. It was just the game was clearly way too fast for him. I mean,
that and you match that with an offensive line that was mediocre at best.
And that's another thing that, and I think Eddie's kind of on this track too. That's why offensive line is my preferred thing. And I do think that they're going to go running back, because I think their current offensive line as constructed, Ben's going to not be functionable. Like, he's not going to be a good enough quarterback with this current offensive line to make this offense really, really roll.
Derek, here's my point with that. And this is, and I was on another show last night, and I was talking about this with Juju. Look at Juju's numbers. He had 97 catches, but he didn't even have 1,000 yards receiving. Why? Because Ben was getting the ball off to him quick. He didn't have any other option. The running game sucked. Why did the running game suck? Partly because the offensive line was trash. Ben Roethlisberger, if he wasn't getting the ball off in under 3 seconds, he probably would have gotten sacked 60-something times. To me, everything starts and stops with the offensive line. If the offensive line, I'm with you, if it's as it's constructed right now, I don't care if they have Marshall Faulk in the backfield. It's not going to cut it, man.
And I'll argue against myself to end this. It definitely is easier for a good offensive line to make an average running back look good versus a running back making a bad offensive line look good. So I'll argue against myself.
Everything, like all of their problems on offense, to me, start with how bad the offensive line was. I think that, look, Ben threw we all are on this. We are all on the same page. He's 33 touchdowns and what, 11?
10.
10 interceptions.
Yeah, but
okay,
don't you
if
know,
you
Eddie,
give
that
me,
doesn't matter
but listen,
anymore. It's
if
all
you
about
give
yards
me, if
net
you
per
give me
average.
33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions from Ben next year with an above average, I'm not even saying a great offensive line. Give me an above average offensive
Competent.
line with 33 touchdowns and
a
10
competent
picks.
offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee you this is a 10 or 11 win football team again, because Ben's going to be able to move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And that's why the offensive line is so important to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like Harris, like, and I don't want to be like one of those guys that's like, oh, well, he ran behind this great offensive line. Like Alabama's offensive line last year was crazy. I mean,
road graders.
And Brown, Leatherwood. I mean, those are all guys that are going to come off the board in the first 100 picks probably. And Harris will improve the run game. He'll help him in the pass game. You know, he's not a liability in pass protection, which is nice. But I just prefer addressing the offensive line. But I still think if he's the pick at 24, I'm still going to be excited to have him. I mean, they can pick anybody, not be excited.
I'm good with like, I'm not going to dislike him if they pick him. You know, right. I just would rather see them go tackle or center in the first round, preferably tackle.
We could run through a dozen scenarios like on mock drafts and stuff, and we could run through several with Najee Harris at 24, and then we'd get done at this screen right here, and we would be like, man, that's a great draft. Like, you can there's still ways to address
right. No, I agree. Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So we'll wrap it up with this. If on the day after the draft, right, the draft is over and this is the board that the Steelers end up with, are you happy with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think they filled a couple needs. I mean, I think you're going to get a really good potential Pro Bowler in Cosme. I think Asante Samuel is going to be a really good player. I think he's going to play, 9-10 years at least as a starter in the league. I think, Kenny Gainwell is another guy that gives them like kind of an explosive weapon, maybe somebody that Canada could get the best out of.
I agree with you on Gainwell, and I think that if you go this way, you're going running back by committee, 100%. I think it's McFarland, Gainwell, and whoever you pick up in free agency.
I'm looking at this draft right here that we just did. It's not my ideal that I've gone through. And again, if we did the show 10 times, we'd probably have 10 different drafts. But I'm looking at this. You got a potential Pro Bowler in Cosme, like Derrick said. Samuel, I don't know if he'd get that high, but I think you got a starter in Samuel. Mm-hmm. Probably a starting running back in Gainwell. And then Trey Hill, I think, is listen. If they go into the season trying to have J.C. Hausensauer or whatever the hell his name is be the starting center, I'm just going to give up on the season right there.
I think it would be Finney before it would be Hausensauer.
True. But I'm looking 1, 2, 3. You at least have 4 potential starters with this draft. And anytime you have more than like 3 starters in a draft, I'd say that's at least a B. I wouldn't give this draft an A, but I would give it a solid B.
Yeah.
I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that said, like, when he was with the Ravens, their goal was always to get 3 starters out of every draft class.
We have 3 for sure, in my opinion, but maybe 4 here. So,
and I mean, obviously, that's relative to how bad your team is. Like, if your team is, you're going to think those guys are starters. But like we said, I think Cosme's a really high level player. I think Samuel's going to be a good NFL player. I think Gainwell's going to be he can be a lead back with maybe a little. Yeah, maybe a compliment that has a little more power.
He's definitely gonna be better than Benny Snell. I'll tell you that right now.
I like the haul. Like I said, man, I really like Terry, what he brings on special teams, and I think he's got some upside as a receiver.
Yeah, I like the idea. Like I told you, a goal line package, because we had issues. That was another thing. Red zone offense was a problem, and if you can put Claypool, Schuster, Terry, and Ebron out, that's 4 guys that are big bodies that Ben has the options to throw to. And you don't have to put them all out on the same, at the same time, but that's 4 different guys that can go in different sub packages in the red zone and be big targets for Ben to throw to in the end zone. And we need that. We desperately need that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you, Chad. I think that's a solid B.
Yeah, that's what I would give it. But anyways,
better than me in college.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on the show again. Hopefully, we will connect with you maybe like draft week or leading up to the draft, and maybe have you on after the draft as well to review it. So,
yeah, I'd like to maybe even try to do like a big like draft week banger and have you and Nick, or
yeah, maybe we could
do a round table or something like that.
Yeah, Nick and I were talking about doing some draft stuff coming up too, especially like the week of the draft to kind of build some hype towards it. Because I really feel like Steeler fans are like crazy excited about draft time this year. Like,
oh, for sure.
I don't know if it's like just maybe the amount of holes that we have, and like, but like I have so many people sending me DMs of mock drafts that they're doing and everything else, and I think it's awesome.
Well, listen, I'm a hockey guy first. There is nothing more fun than being like when I'm bored or whatever, if I'm doing work or schoolwork or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to create my mock draft real quick. Like, it's one of the funnest things a fan can do. And not every sport has that ability either. Like, it's not as in-depth and stuff like that. So,
hey,
yeah.
Derrick, real quick, this is the one scenario we didn't talk about, and we can do it like real quick, 30 seconds, a minute. Is there any scenario where you see them trading up in the first round for a quarterback?
A realistic one, no. Because okay. I don't think that there's going to be a guy worth that kind of investment. I had talked about like earlier in the offseason, like maybe if Trey Lance got to Denver, because I think they're going to be a trade down candidate at 9. I had talked to people like if he were to get to 9, I think there would be a ton of teams trying to trade up to get him, but I would definitely go up and get him even with Ben coming back. And
I love Trey Lance, man. I really like him a lot.
And get a quarterback, but he would be the one guy that I would be interested in trading up to get. But I've heard that he's not going to get past Atlanta.
Yeah,
no.
I think the big 3 or 4 quarterbacks are going to be gone.
I think Mac Jones has. I'm not a fan of Mac Jones, but I think teams are so quarterback hungry right now that I think you'll likely see all 5 of those guys drafted by like pick 15.
I
16.
agree. Yeah. I agree with that. I just wouldn't trade up to get Mac.
That's good for the Steelers though, because all those non-quarterbacks are going to fall down the draft. So that's good for the Steelers.
Bring me the tackles.
Yeah, the quarterbacks and the wide receivers are going to go early, and that's going to help the Steelers a lot.
That's how you end up with a Cosme at 24. When if there wasn't 5 quarterbacks being drafted, he's a easy top 20, top 15 pick, and that's how you get a good value like that. So.
Yeah, the amount of quarterbacks and receivers going in the first 20 picks really helps the Steelers because our needs are offensive line, running back, and corner. Those are the big 3, and I think you're getting a quality guy that you can plug into your team right away at 24 because of the run on receivers and quarterbacks.
Definitely.
So, all right, Derrick, again, we appreciate you coming on. For all of you that stuck through this this interesting experiment of a live mock draft, we appreciate it. As always, we want to thank our sponsor, 412 MCM Studios.
Ourselves, we're our own sponsor,
right? No, we want to shout out MCM Studios. You can find them at 412mcmstudios.com. Check out Mike Hitt. Mention the podcast and get 15% off your first hour recording session. And again, we appreciate all the listeners. You guys are the reason why we do this. So we will catch you all next week with Trey Essex again. So take care, have a good one, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to 412 Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you like the show, leave us a review, and be sure to tell a friend about your source for all things Pittsburgh sports. Find us on Twitter at MadChad412 and at Eddie_P_412.